Welcome to an episode of Marvel Cinematic University, show that covers everything in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I am one of your co-hosts, Jay Christie. AC, Anthony Canton III, the usual co-host, the usual person who does the intro, is currently out with an illness. He can't speak without coughing, and since podcasting is mostly a speaking medium, he can't make it here today. But we still got to talk about some stuff that went on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and so we had to bring in one of our friends to help us out, to help cover What If Season 2, Hunter Radesi. Hunter, how are you?
I'm great. I am famously a what if defender, so I'm excited to goof around, talk about that, and answer the question: what if we did this without AC? So
Yes. I know he had some thoughts that he's been sharing on our Discord, which is part of our Patreon, which you can get into for just $3. You get all of our bonus episodes, and our Discord for $3. And if you pay $8, you get some extra bonus stuff, including the opportunity to be on one of our subscriber mailbags. So please go to patreon.com/mcuniversitypod if you are so inclined. So if you really are wondering what AC's thoughts on these episodes is, he was giving episode by episode updates as you watched. So you can check those out on there. But yeah, What If Season 2? I think that listeners of this podcast know that, What If the first season is a much, teased upon show. People make fun of it. A lot of people put it at the bottom of their lists of favorite Marvel shows. I say a lot of people as if I'm not talking about myself included there. But I know that you, as you mentioned, you're a What If defender. And so before we talk about this season, what were you looking forward to? What were you expecting? What were you hoping for when they announced it was coming back?
I was hoping for them to have a little bit more fun with the concept. I think something that faltered a lot in the first season for a lot of people was you have this really cool idea for a show that had been a very cool long running comic book, where you can really do almost anything with this massive universe full of really cool characters. And it felt like, even, and I will admit, even as someone who did enjoy the first season more than most, like, there were quite a few episodes in there that just felt like they weren't as creative as they could have been. And I was hoping in this season to see more of that, just something, maybe some stuff that's a little bit more experimental, a little more fun, get a little goofy, play with the genres a little bit more. So that's I think what I was hoping for coming in, was just taking that what if concept and being a little bit more like the comics and maybe not playing it quite as safe.
Yeah, I think that my main criticism of the first season was that it felt like rather than like they have the whole big preamble and they make it in universe that it's all about one different thing being like a different thing causing a huge change. And I felt like they kept pointing that out and then never really stuck by it. That like it felt like a lot of the episodes, and I think this is actually, you can even argue this is worse in season 2, were like, rather than be like, what if, for example, like you know what if Yandu delivered Peter, which is a clear one thing. It's
Yeah.
like they like, for example, the first episode, which we'll talk about. What if Nebula joined the Nova Corps? That's like 16 what ifs in one, which I don't necessarily have a problem with, but like I kind of don't like that they. I'm kind of a broken record on this the last season, but like I really wish they took the time to be like, the change in this universe is X and everything else follows it. It's kind of frustrating that you can't, because like the what if in that episode is not what if Nebula joined the Nova Corps. It's what if Thanos died way earlier. Like that's actually the what if that they're talking about.
Yeah, no, I actually agree with you, and I had similar thoughts. And the crazy thing is, like, I really liked that Nebula episode. I thought it was a really fun episode. It played with genre, like I mentioned earlier, in a way I was hoping they would this season. But I'm fully on board with just because I'm weird and my brain works a really specific way. When the first season dropped, I would try to like make a list in my phone of like exactly what the change was and what that affected. And you're right, you really can't do that. And it's the same with that Nebula episode. I feel like they should have just titled it like "What if Thanos died way earlier?" And then the fun part is being like, "Oh, and then that leads to like Nebula joining the Nova Corps and like all this stuff." And that makes a lot more sense. I felt kind of the same way about like the Happy Hogan Christmas episode, where I was like, "This isn't really like it is a what if, but it's not really like this big." I don't know. It just felt like they wanted to make a funny episode where Happy Hogan is like does a Die Hard riff, and then they
Yeah.
just tried to fit that into the format.
Yeah, I think, and the only reason I'm so critical about it is because they foreground this concept of like changes in the universe so much. Like I'm fine with like the Marvel fan fiction cartoon show, but they very much want it to fit in with our understanding of the multiverse. And it's like, okay, then fine. Then like you should. We're starting way too late in the branches generally, but that's a general complaint. You know, I don't. I get what they're trying to do. I get that it's 30 minutes and that they're trying to condense the stuff as much and they want to skip to the interesting parts. But I have a question. What was your opinion? Excuse me, on the release schedule where it was one a day from what was it, the 22nd to the 30th?
Um, I don't know. My relationship with the release was kind of weird because what I didn't experience it that way at first, like a lot of people did. I was lucky enough. Disney sent me the whole season, like 2 days before it started dropping normally. Um, and I happened to have gotten COVID like that day, so I couldn't go anywhere, and all my plans fell through. So I ended up just binging the whole season in a day because I had nothing else to do, and it was just there. And then I kind of would try to like keep up and rewatch the episodes as they dropped. I don't know. I think I don't hate it, to be honest. I mean, I'm someone who prefers weekly releases a lot more than like dumping a whole season on the same day because I think that it makes the season a little bit more forgettable. And I think that the day to day it does lean towards that, where I think people maybe watch one a day, the season ends, and then they forget that the season ever existed almost immediately or within a couple weeks. But I do think it's more fun than all at once, and I think that them trying to like tie it in and make it a Christmas thing when I mean they really only had like one Christmas episode. I don't know. Like it makes me wonder what was going on. Like did they always intend to release it around Christmas, or did they just realize they had a Christmas episode? And they're like, let's just make this a Christmas break thing, and they just drop it while everyone's off school and stuff. But yeah, I
Yeah.
I like it more than the all at once, but I still probably would have preferred like one episode a week.
Yeah. From a producerial standpoint, I really resent the fact that that 9 episodes for us turned into one. Like that's just bad for our content. But and I also like I'm someone who it's funny because like they release a lot of movies and stuff around Christmas, and I always hate that because my family doesn't love going to the movies, and like no, the rest of my family's not going to watch What If. So like, whereas for a lot of people it's the most advantageous time to watch it. Like I have to be the asshole. Like I'm at home in Florida with my family, being like, "Hey, I gotta sneak off to watch like an episode of a cartoon. I just gotta give me a half hour." But
If
yeah,
it makes you feel any better, when the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special dropped, I made my entire family, like extended family, stop what they were doing so we could watch it because they refused to let me sneak off. So it became a whole family affair. So I get it.
mm. Yeah, my mom came when we saw No Way Home because it was I they wanted me to come, like the flight was cheap and I'm like, okay, but I need to see No Way Home opening night. And so now my dad has seen basically all the MCU stuff, so he got it, but my mom was completely lost. But anyway, the it was I think it was an interesting gambit. I'm glad that they did it for this as opposed to, forgive me, a show that like matters more in terms of the
Yeah, I get what
both
you mean.
matters more, but also like in terms of the nature of it, the serialization of it. It's not that serialized, so it's not
Yeah,
like because like what I did, I watched I think the first 4 episodes all at once because I was I did I wasn't super I knew I would have to watch it by the time we did the episode, but like I wasn't super urgent in watching all of it immediately. And so like watching 4 episodes and then one, like the experience is not that different because there's not, you don't have to worry about pacing because it's not a
right.
continuous story until it is. But yeah, let's go episode by episode. We'll keep it brief for some of these. And we'll talk about the episode generally. And I took like little notes, which I normally don't do that much of, but since there are going to be 9 episodes, I was going to forget. So we got the first one, which is what if Nebula joined the Nobel Corps? Now, I think that this was a really fun episode. As you mentioned, they messed with the genre a little bit, and the thing I liked about it, which I think you probably did as well, is that like we get a lot of alien planet stuff in the Guardians movies, but I feel like we don't actually like engage at all with the live reality of people on those planets. And I actually liked that they kind of were telling like a dystopian sci-fi story in addition to this what if story about Nebula.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I also it's funny how many episodes I feel like in this season were kind of just like, what if we did this famous movie but in Marvel? and and this was everyone, like, every time there's sort of a dystopian sci-fi vibe and everything, people will just compare it to Blade Runner immediately, and I recognize that that can be really annoying. And I was trying to think of like a different movie, but I'm watching it, and the entire episode I'm like, this is they're just doing Blade Runner, right? Like that's kind
Yeah,
of what's happening. Um, but yeah, I agree with you, and I like that. I feel like this episode kind of used some characters that we've seen before almost better than their actual like
yeah.
sacred timeline. Like, I wish Jan Rog was this fun in the actual Captain Marvel
Yes.
movie.
Yeah. I mean, people who listen to our pods about What If Season 1 know that my running bit was asking why Chris Evans couldn't find a recording studio in the greater Boston area. Most of the bit was in every episode I would come with a new Boston suburb. I would say, like, you couldn't swing out to Somerville or Braintree or, Quincy. Um, and what I would do often is I'd point out things like, a fucking Jude Law Academy Award nominee could who's only in one Marvel movie that people don't think about that much, if he could get his ass in the booth. What about you? But I moved on. I'm not gonna say anything about that. I'm not gonna make a joke about how your wife was 7 when Fantastic Four came out. I'm not gonna do any of that, Chris. You're forgiven. You're forgiven. I'm sorry,
You
that's
know,
rude, but
it's a valid point because like you watch the whole season and there's like some. I mean, we'll get to the episode when we get
yeah,
there, but literally episode 2, that is a stacked
yeah,
cast. Like, you put
yes,
that cast in like a drama film, and that's an Academy Award winning film, and
yes,
they're
yes,
all just doing this like 30-minute Marvel cartoon,
yes.
but then it's like RDJ will not do
And the
it.
thing is, right, the difference is that Robert Downey Jr. Like, if Kirk Douglas, sorry, Kirk Douglas, if I was combining Michael Douglas and Kurt Russell, if Michael Douglas didn't want to do it, I would understand. He's Michael Douglas. He's important, and I think Chris Evans is very delightful and good in the MCU movies. I think he's been good in other movies, but frankly, I. I saw him with my own two eyes. He was in Ghosted. He does not have better things to do. He just doesn't. He doesn't. I'm sorry, he doesn't.
Yeah, no. If Annette Bening can be there,
I mean, Annette Bening actually was not.
oh
It was
wait,
just
she wasn't. Oh my
No,
god!
it was an incredibly good impression of Annette Bening. In fact,
Wow, I
me and
didn't even
Michael
check
Spencer
the
were
credits
texting
because
about
like
it.
I
It's
didn't even check the
incredible.
credits. I just assumed that it was her because it was such a good impression.
And the
That's
thing about it
crazy.
too is, like, if someone's doing, like with Robert Downey Jr., you can imagine how to do an impression of that. You assume it's Annette Bening because who has an Annette Bening impression in their back pocket? Apparently, this one voice actress does.
Nobody. I would almost use Lawrence Fishburne as an example, and then I'm like, he's out here doing like Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, so he is clearly.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly, but I want to apologize to the viewing audience who sees me occasionally peering over. Wemby is going against Giannis, and it's 118 to 118. I couldn't turn the game off. I'm sorry. It'll be off. It'll be off in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. But what do you want me to do? Anyway, so this episode, I think there's a lot of cool spy elements. I think that, like you mentioned, Yanrog was really used much more interestingly. I thought it was kind of funny how like they threw Korg in there when like I don't know
Yeah,
why the hell is Korg there. I mean, I love Korg.
Korg is
Um,
there because of mass consumerism.
yeah,
I feel like.
and because like Disney has a 28 picture deal with Taika Waititi, um, and yeah, I think the thing that the reason I was a little bit frustrated with the what if part of this episode is that I think it felt like they kind of took away a lot of the stuff that would make it specific to Nebula. Like, this episode actually just could have been about a you know, plays by her own rules Nova Corps agent. Like, it doesn't actually need
Yeah,
to be Nebula in any specific way. I mean, obviously there's the bit with the computer chip, but still. So yeah, I enjoyed the episode, and I thought it was a strong start. But yeah, I thought it was a really fun genre exercise more than anything.
yeah, and I also, I mean, to your earlier point, I like, it's fun that Groot is there, and like you said, Korg is there. I mean, Howard the Duck, we get this is probably maybe the most we've seen from Howard the Duck in anything, if I'm remembering correctly. And it
Yeah,
was fun. Like, I liked how they were used in the episode. I think that they were funny. Like, it was cool. But it also goes back to like Nebula joining the Nova Corps is not why they're there. Like, it's goes back to that Thanos thing where it's like, yeah, like in a world where Thanos loses way earlier, then the Guardians never form, and then Groot ends up in a casino or whatever. But has nothing to do with Nebula joining the Nova Corps. It is pretty silly.
Yes. So I went through most of my notes. Um, one of them is that they sure as hell aren't getting Glenn Close, even if the ride did, which is of course a reference to the fact that Glenn Close does a video portion for the Guardians of the Galaxy ride at Disney World, which is astounding to me. I just
Yeah, that is pretty wild, actually. And this goes back to like I would understand if Glenn Close was like, I'm not voicing this. Like I get it. I
I
didn't
mean
question Glenn
she did.
Close. Yeah, I know. But like I would understand if she didn't, but the fact that she did is insane.
Yeah, and like so there's that. The thing that I found a little bit eye rolly is like the Nebula reveal of I switched the codes, and it's like okay, I'm sure you did. I was always funny. What if is like it reveals I think so starkly because it's just a voice performance that like while I think she's actually really good at it and become really good at it, it is so weird that they cast Karen Gillan, someone with one of the most musical voices in existence, as Nebula.
No, you're right. Would it be weirder if Nebula just had Karen Gillan's voice?
Definitely. So the next one is what if Peter Quill attacked the Earth's mightiest heroes? Um, I think that this is a better, in my opinion, of at the explaining the what if bit. Like it's a pretty clear straight line from what if Yandu dropped him off to he would attack Earth. But yeah, I think that this one, I don't know, I thought this one was like a really fun idea. I don't love the execution of it, but it is also a 30-minute cartoon, so I'm willing to live with it. How did you feel?
I feel really similar to you. I think when I was tweeting about it originally, I think I said almost exactly what you just said. Is like I really, really like the idea, and I think the like 1988 Avengers is a really fun concept of like, yeah, if Ego and Peter Quill were attacking Earth in 1988, then like someone's got to stop them. So we get to see what the Avengers look like if they form way earlier. Like that is really cool, and I enjoy it. But I just wish they got a little more creative with it. Like you have all these really cool, unique characters that we haven't really seen come together, and I wish they would have taken a little bit of a deeper dive into their dynamics and like maybe given them some cooler fight scenes and stuff like that. But like you said, it boils down to they have 30 minutes. I did really like a lot of the stuff with Hank Pym in the episode, and I like the idea that like Peter Quill is gonna be good no matter what. Um, all that was fun, but yeah, it felt very like it just was. Like I watched it, like that was fun, and then I didn't really think about it again. It is one of the only episodes I've seen twice, and I will say I think I liked it more the second time without as high of expectations. I was like, no, yeah, this is really fun, and it's a team that I think would be cool. Like if they still did like offshoot tie-in comics or something, I would read a comic about the continued adventures of this team and how them forming when they do completely change everything else. Because you have in this timeline, I maybe T'Chaka doesn't die. Howard Stark maybe doesn't die because he connected with Bucky. Maybe Marvel doesn't die. All these characters that we know die in like the 90s maybe don't die in the 90s now. And so yeah, I would read more of this, but we just didn't get all of that in the episode, which was a shame.
Yeah, and I do feel like although I almost feel like although I think that there's some interesting stuff with it, I actually I hate to be like this would be better if they did X, Y, Z, but I think that there'd be a more interesting version of this episode if they actually just didn't have Bucky in it at all. I think that there was interesting
I
stuff
think
with the
Bucky was a
idea.
weird choice. I thought it was strange they didn't do Red Guardian.
Yes, that is a big part of it, but also I understand what they're trying to do with the Howard Bucky stuff because obviously they have a history given that he ends up killing him. But like they end up basically doing the Winter Soldier Bucky realization over the phone with a character he just met, and like that just feels so rushed. And it's like I we one of the things is we have done the Bucky Barnes realizes that he is Bucky Barnes thing.
A
What we
lot.
haven't done is see Hank Pym and Bill Foster fighting side by side. We haven't seen Marvel as a hero. Like and so
Yeah.
like I don't know if we needed that. If it felt like they wanted to that they felt they needed to have like a mainline Avenger in there to
Yeah.
be and like you got of all the actors in this, Sebastian Stan, who? You know what I mean? Like, we don't need
He
him.
also
I
has
mean,
like two lines. He was in that
yes.
recording booth for like 3 seconds and dipped. um Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. I was actually super excited about Bill Foster, and I thought like his suit looked pretty cool. I thought it like we've only heard that he was Giant Man or Goliath, or they call him Giant Man in the episode, but
Mm.
I like the name Goliath more. Um, we had heard bits and pieces of that, and I always thought it'd be cool to see. And then we do see it, and like you said, he barely even fights side by side with Hank Pym. Um, yeah, I also, to your point, like Peggy, I thought does Peggy know that it's Bucky before he gets off, or no? And then if she doesn't, then it's like a really subdued reaction considering the emotional connection she would have. And yeah, it was strange. And I was like, I also just feel like young Red Guardian in his prime would have been a more fun part of the team too, like
Yeah,
personality wise as well. And I don't know, it was
it
strange.
it feels like What If could so easily be a vehicle for giving side characters like fun shit to do,
Yeah,
and this is a missed opportunity. Like I don't need to see another. One thing if it was another Bucky Barnes story, fine, but it is just the same Bucky Barnes story.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any other thoughts before I run down my notes?
I thought it was a cool use of young Hope Van Dyne. I thought that was
That's a good point. I felt like the fact that they had a child counterpart, I think, was really smart. So yeah, uh, you know, the at one part they say he's heading towards Coney Island. For some reason, I wrote somebody's got to protect Lance Stevenson. I don't know if you noticed this. Did you see who they got to play T'Chaka?
yeah, Atan Wakani. I look at me pull that off the dome.
Yes,
Yeah, I
John Connie's son, who plays
yeah.
old T'Chaka, which is always cool. He sounds a lot like him.
Well, he played live
Oh right, yes,
action
of
on
course.
T'Chaka as well. So like
Yes,
technically he is also coming back
yeah.
from the
You know, one of my favorite fun facts is you know who plays young Zuri, right? Do you know the actor's name?
uh not off the top of my head, no.
So old Zuri's played by Forrest Whitaker, right? Young
Oh,
Zuri is
yes.
played by Denzel Whitaker, who is not related to Forrest Whitaker, and he's not related to Denzel Washington either.
Wait, he's not related I always
No,
assumed it.
no, he's
That's
not. Think about it.
wild.
Think about it. The guy who plays young T'Chaka's last name is Connie, and he is the son of old T'Chaka. The guy who plays young Zuri, his last name is Whitaker, and he's not related to Forrest Whitaker.
I would love to imagine that like Kevin Feige or Sarah Finn or whoever
Mm,
like just assumed it was
mm.
Forrest Whitaker's son, and they're like, "This will be fun. We'll do it twice in one movie."
Yeah.
And then he shows up to set, and Forrest is like, "Who is this guy? I don't know who this guy
Whoa, 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 whoa! Let's not be just. If I remember correctly, he's also played his dad in a movie before. I think that.
is."
Yeah. But the
So
thing is,
multiple casting
he has
directors
the
have
same.
made the same mistake.
But the thing is, he has the same eyes. Like that's the thing. What are the
Yeah,
odds?
it works out. Yeah,
Yeah.
what are astronomical?
Yes. Anyway, yeah. I also believe he's in the movie The Great Debaters, which was directed by Denzel Washington, which is the reason I brought up Denzel. He's just a lot of coincidences.
I
With Denzel Whitaker.
I also want to throw out like very quickly that when
Mm,
I was like in high school, I ran this Marvel. It was called Marvel Update, and it was just like an Instagram thing. It was a precursor
mm,
to everything I do now, and it got fairly popular. And I posted about Atan Wakani when he was cast in the movie,
mm.
and Atan Wakani actually reached out to me and like thanked me for promoting his
Hell
career,
yeah.
and then like actually chatted with me for a bit, and he was super nice. So just throwing out there, in my experience, Atan Wakani, really nice guy, cool dude.
I mean, John Connie is like a legend. He's one of those dudes where, like, if you read anything about like South African theater, it's like, oh, he's like one of the goats. Like him and who's the guy's name? Zake Smokey, I think, is the other like one of the big guys in South African theater. So shouts to both of them. Anyway, another note I have is John Slattery only resides in the pocket. Why did I take time to type that? How do they know his name is Ego? Is a big thing. Like,
That's a great
like
point. I never, because Peter just says my dad the whole episode.
yeah,
He's never like
yeah. No, I
ego,
know. Yeah.
father.
And yeah, I felt like towards the end they definitely I think we're doing a little too much with the Bucky stuff, and but once again it's what if, so like I'm not really gonna lose my mind over it. So the next one is what if Happy Hogan Saved Christmas, which as you mentioned is a Die Hard parody, but it also has some Hulk stuff. It's got Sam Rockwell back. I was really really excited for this, but I'll let you go first because I have an overarching take that I don't want to pollute your take with.
Fair enough. Yeah, I honestly think this was maybe one of my least favorite episodes of the season. Um, that being said, that is by no fault to Sam Rockwell, who is the goat and who I could watch and listen to just for hours and hours and hours. So for me, I really enjoyed just kind of having Justin Hammer back for a little bit and
Hmm.
seeing him get to be like an actual big
Hmm.
bad and try to like make some moves and put on some armor and stuff. Like that was cool and fun. But I don't know, the rest of it just didn't really land for me. And like I already mentioned earlier, it just didn't really feel like a good use of the what if concept. It just kind of felt like an
Hmm.
idea they had that they wanted to throw out there. And then they established this idea that there's a purple Hulk that
Hmm.
is Happy Hogan, and then they like use that purple Hulk a few more times in the
Don't get
season.
me
I was
started about
like,
that.
I think that they really overestimated how much people would
Yeah.
like Hulk Hogan, as I have started calling him.
Yes. Yes. So there's an idiom, and people on video will see me demonstrate this. Doing a like Happy Hogan has to save the day in a Die Hard parody, and Happy Hogan accidentally becomes a Hulk man is a hat on a hat. We don't need both of those. We don't need both of them.
I was wondering why you grabbed the other hat, and that was a great payoff.
Thank you, thank you. I wasn't gonna do it until I realized I was already wearing a hat. Um, Oh, the story of this hat is great. When I went down to Florida for my older brother's 30th birthday a couple weeks ago, a friend of the show, Michael Springthorpe, came down. He had like he had like seven of two different hats. One's the white one that says Waterboy on it, and one was a camo hat that says Entrepreneur. And it was because the office across from him where he works, just whenever they have leftover promotional work, they just put it down the hallway, and he always grabs it. And so I could be promoting something heinous with this hat, but it's Waterboy. Anyway.
But
Um,
yeah, to your yeah,
yeah,
I feel like this was like one of those. I like episode felt like it should have been called "What If Happy Hogan Became Hulk" or something,
exactly.
and then they go from there. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, as someone who for whom Die Hard is a top 10 movie, it is my family doesn't have a lot of movie traditions. The only one we have is we watch Die Hard before Christmas, and we watch it this year. And if I'm ever down, I just say Mr. Takagi to myself. It just there's just not enough. Like I just feel like if you're gonna do this and like completely eschew the what if concept, just do a Die Hard parody, and they just really didn't. I will note that once again, Chris Evans. I said I wasn't gonna bring it up again, but Jeremy Renner almost died last year, and he showed up. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Um, yeah, it's fine. Like it didn't really work for me that much. I don't know. There's like some like they have like fun verbal references and like I do appreciate that they reference Christmas Story, which is funny because the guy who plays the kid in the Christmas Story is in Iron Man 1. That's not even that funny though. That's just a thing I noticed.
yeah,
Um,
that's. I would bet so much money that was not the reason they referenced.
Honestly, I actually think it is because he's a producing partner with John Favreau.
Oh,
Um,
he is. Oh, that's
Yes.
crazy.
Yeah, that's why he's in Iron Man 1. He's like in or producer on all of John Favreau's directing movies, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay, cool.
He
More
basically
to know.
retired from acting for the most part, except he's just does small roles in movies like
And
that.
then like a sequel for some reason.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. I appreciate that they mentioned Reginald Dahl Johnson when talking about Die Hard. I mean, there's
yeah.
that. Now, a question that I had, and I want to know your opinion on this, because I'll say this. My answer is yes. Do you think when they were doing the joke about the AI Werner, do you think that they reached out to Werner Herzog?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay, good.
I
Yeah,
think that they did.
yeah.
And for a brief, because again, I feel like with this show, like his name wasn't in the opening credits, but there was the briefest of seconds where the back of my head was like, this could be actual Werner Herzog.
The thing to keep in mind is anyone who's like he wouldn't do that. Like, and I'm not saying
I
because
think
the
he would.
Mandalorian. I'm not saying because the Mandalorian. I'm saying it because in an episode of Parks and Rec, he plays a guy who's selling a haunted house whose character is credited as Keg Jeggings. So he's clearly
No,
down.
I feel like he's a strong mix of like having artistic and integrity, but then also just being a guy who maybe needs some extra money to like buy a house or something.
I
And
also
I
I also feel like he has artistic integrity, but he has like no, I'm not saying integrity, but like no preciousness about himself. He's like, my art is precious. I am just a man made of muscle and tissue like everyone else. You know what I mean? Like I feel like he doesn't, you know.
yeah, no. Also to to pull another fun fact in the way that you've been doing. I like
That's all I have.
when yes, when Hugo Weaving played Red Skull, he
Mhm.
based his accent on Werner Herzog. So like
Interesting.
that's why Red Skull kind of sounds like Werner Herzog in the MCU. No, I mean not exactly, but like close.
And so then yeah.
Well, yeah, so like canon Red Skull kind of sounds like Werner Herzog. So it's just funny to me to think that now like there's also kind of a Jarvis that sounds like Red Skull. So that it's just like a
I mean,
like a big
and he
fun
extra
circle.
sounds like him because the I don't know if you saw, but the actor who plays Werner is Ross Marquand, who does the Red
Yeah.
Skull in Infinity War and Endgame.
Oh wow. Look at
Yeah,
that.
so
Look
it
at
literally is him. But yeah, so the next one is it is called "What If Iron Man Crashed into the Grandmaster?" Which this one I feel like it might be the most successful, making it very clear what the what if is. Just what if the
yeah.
portal closed. Um, and yeah, we go to Sakaar. We got Jeff Goldblum. We got Rachel House. We got Tessa Thompson, Taika Waititi. Um, I felt like this one is the one this season that justified this show being an animated show more than the rest. Like, you know what I mean? A lot of these you just like the animation's just fine. This one it felt like there was a lot of fun and care and effort in. And as someone who, has been getting better at watching more animated stuff over the past few years, I know, shut up, stop booing me. I just really understood the value of this one being animated.
Yeah, I think it's a really energetic episode. And I think that it's one of the more like blockbustery 30
Mm-hmm.
minutes in the season.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, you're right. They do a lot of really fun stuff with it. I liked it. I think, and this is the holdover from season one. They
Mm-hmm.
even started with the little like
Mm-hmm.
previously on sort of,
Right,
which
yeah.
which I thought was funny. Um, yeah, I thought it was a good time. This is to state the obvious. There's like a little bit of Mad Max in there again,
Yes.
just pulling from like popular
Mm-hmm.
movies and throwing them in there. Jeff Goldblum is they just let him be full Jeff
Mm-hmm.
Goldblum, and he's just having fun, and it's really funny. And yeah, I felt like this was almost like an extended rip roaring good time version of like the opening of Endgame with Tony and
Yeah.
Nebula, but with Gamora. Like it's kind of like
Yeah.
Tony having the same effect and imparting the same messages
Mm-hmm.
on Gamora instead of Nebula, and it's just over the course of this like 30-minute adventure instead of a couple minute
Yeah.
opening.
Yeah, I felt like the weakest part of the episode to me was Gamora's characterization because, like, this is in 2012 and she is this dead set on, avenging Thanos in Thanos' honor. But then, like, in 2014, it takes her, like, pretty, like, 2 sec. Like, she already is against Thanos. So, like, I just don't believe it would take. It just does not fit with the character that we meet in Guardians of the Galaxy. That just
Yeah,
2 years earlier, she would be completely resistant to the idea of being. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like she'd be pretty. We didn't need to do all this nonsense to turn her. Is what my. But that's a nitpick.
yeah, no, and again, that feels like it goes back to they have 30 minutes and they
Yeah.
need to justify certain story
Mm-hmm.
points and stuff like that. I did notice that a little bit. I mean, I didn't think quite as hard into it and do the math of the years, but I did notice that Gamora fell a little bit off. But yeah, I mean, it's funny that Gamora does end up being one of the like Guardians of the Multiverse in the
Mm-hmm.
first season because she did feel genuinely pretty like secondary through a lot of this episode, but I guess it is like a Tony Stark episode.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I didn't have like too many crazy deep thoughts on this one.
No.
It was mostly like one I was like, yeah, this is like a fun use of the concept. Um, like you said, I really enjoyed that it was a very clear cut what if,
Yeah.
and that it felt like this is actually
Mm-hmm.
what this show is supposed to be, which is nice.
Yeah. So a couple of notes, always love to see Korg call himself a pile of rocks, use a paperweight. Tony makes reference to the Hunger Games, which like he didn't read the books and the movie came out in late 2012. So what are we doing, Tony? Um, at some point, Val refers
We
to
don't
it.
know
Like,
he didn't read the books. We don't know
that's true.
that.
Yeah, he could have been. He was used with Suzanne Collins since Gregor the Overlander. Val refers to it as a demon in the bottle. Even that's a comic reference. Even I got. And
Yep.
another thing, this was even more egregious to me than the ego bit. It's a revelation in Thor Ragnarok that Val is a Valkyrie. She doesn't share that with people. How are they
Yeah.
all calling her Val? Everyone. Like that's not her secret.
These are great. I can't believe I didn't. Maybe it's because I was binge watching and I was like, yeah, this is fun. But that's a great point. Like she has like a number for a name or something like
Yeah,
that
like
in the.
Scrapper 214 or something like that.
Yeah. That's a great point. That's a great
Like
point. I
he
will
when
say,
Thor says you're a Valkyrie, she's like, shut up.
yeah, no, this is a great point. I will say that like Valkyrie in a Mad Max race is such a great and fun idea that works really, really well.
Yes. Oh,
Um,
100%.
especially Val at like that point in her life before she's like president and or whatever that is, king. Yeah, that worked really really well. I feel like she was kind of born for that. But dang, that is a fantastic. See, maybe if there was like an earlier point, it's what if everyone knew she was a Valkyrie? That
Um,
changes nothing.
anyway, let's skip to the next. Not skip to. Let's go to the next episode. What
Yeah,
if Captain Carter fought the Hydra Stomper? Um,
the sequel.
I actually quite enjoyed the original, and the problem I had with this one, and I'll let you go quickly next, is the thing I enjoyed about it was that it was fun to see Peggy Carter be a Captain America. I didn't really care that much about what was happening with Steve Rogers in the episode. I don't know, like it just when Steve died, and I wasn't like I need to see them come back. I was pretty disappointed by this episode. I don't know about you.
No, I was disappointed that they. This feels like an aggressive word, but I do kind of feel like they wasted an episode on something they just didn't need. Like,
Yeah.
and this goes back to my feelings on this season as a whole, and that I felt like this season the highs were a lot higher than the first season, but I also felt like the lows were maybe not lower, but just more disappointing. In that, like, this episode started, and I was like, I just didn't see the point of it. It's like we could.
Yeah.
There's so many cool, fun
Mm-hmm.
what if ideas that you could pull from the MCU, and we're just doing like what if this version of Peggy had her own Winter Soldier arc. And
That's the thing. This is the second time this season they did the Winter Soldier arc.
yes, exactly. And there's like elements to it that are fun. Like I think it's cool that it's like, oh, in this universe, Bucky becomes like a. The writer of the show described him as a Jimmy Carter esque elder statesman, which I
Mm-hmm.
thought was a funny way to describe what he is because that's not really what I got from this episode.
No.
um, like little things like that are fun, and I thought that the chemistry between Peggy and Natasha was really, really good.
Yes. That was the best
And
part of
that,
the episode, obviously.
yeah, it was, and that was like interesting to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole time I was watching, I was like, this is definitely going to inspire a fanfic or two. I could just see it happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I just like, even if I did really enjoy the episode, I would still have it in the back of my mind. Like, I just don't see why we need to do sequels in What If
Yeah.
when there are a million bajillion concepts we could explore.
And the thing too is that like I am I enjoy the dynamic between uh Peggy and Natasha enough where I don't mind the idea of them doing another like an episode of them being a buddy group. But like once again, I don't need them to retread like the thing they're fighting to be a retread of something we've already seen. Like it really is just replacing mind control with a robot. You know what I mean? Like that's all it really
Yeah.
is doing. And you know, it's disappointing because I love Haley Atwell. I think that Captain Carter, like I understand from a 1,000-foot view that it's very strange how much they're front loading this character and yeah, et cetera, et cetera. And I think the criticisms of them front loading her when there's an actual Captain America they haven't really done much with, I think those are all true. But I enjoy the character. Just like I, I also just feel like I don't know. Josh Keaton is trying his best, but like I just don't. It because
Oh,
it's
he's
not Chris
not.
Evans. Because it's not
Yeah.
Chris Evans. I think the thing people don't realize is that like if it's not the actor, unfortunately, I'm just carrying less of the goodwill I have from the movies and TV shows. Like, I'm just not thinking that these are really. But I'm not trying to be like rude about it. It's just like I don't feel like it's the same amount of history because these are not. He's not
Yeah.
Chris Evans. It's not the same chemistry, and so they're asking
Yeah.
us to call on the chemistry that they have in Captain America: The First Avenger, which once again is incredibly long ago, and also is with a different performer with different energy. And so I don't know. It just was frustrating. But now, what was your opinion on the fact that they got Academy Award winner, multiple time nominee Rachel Weisz to come back?
I was thinking about that earlier when we were having those other discussions. I think it's honestly, I think it's great. I think it's great that she came back. I think
Yeah.
it's fun. Um,
Can I say
this
something
was
now? She is one of
yeah.
my favorite living actors. I think she's fucking terrible. I think she forgot how to do her accent. Like it's really. I
Yes,
love her so
the
much.
accent
I
is
love her.
so weird. That's where I
I
was
love her
going.
so much. I'm sorry.
I was
I wanted to interrupt you because I want to state she is in probably my top 10 favorite living performers, and I think she's so bad.
yeah. She's in a reverse of Annette Bening where I didn't even check because I
Yeah.
just assumed it was Annette Bening.
Mm.
I checked that this was Rachel Weisz like after watching the episode because like that was clearly not her, and then
Yeah.
it was, which was insane. And I also think this was another situation like the Gamora one where she also felt like maybe we just didn't get to know her that well in Black Widow, but I was
No,
also
well,
like,
we
this
didn't.
doesn't feel like the same character,
No.
and I
Yeah.
don't know what is different, you know?
Yeah. Because also, like, I never got the impression in Black Widow that even when she was at her worst, she was the one running things. Like, that was never the vibe I got. It felt like she was someone who was part of a machine who thought that she was giving, like orphan girls an opportunity to make like it never felt like she was a fully evil at any point, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And so it's just weird. Like Dreykov is a fucking nothing character, so I'm not saying I wish they had Dreykov in there, but like that actually would make sense because he's the leader of the Red Room, you know?
yeah,
Um yeah, so that's all I really have to say about that.
they
I have a couple
dispose of.
notes. I was really offended when Natasha said that RoboCop is solid. The Stone Cold masterpiece. But beyond that, also I mean, is it just the power of love that like makes him overpower the machine? Like I just don't know how this because we don't know what actually is going on with him. And so like whatever.
No, it's an episode with a lot of unanswered questions, and another a positive thing I will say
Sure.
is there are like background elements to this episode that
Yes.
are really fun in how they play with
Yes.
the concept.
Yes.
Um, again, AC Riley was talking again, and I almost wish that they would have made it more evident in the
Mhm.
episode so you could have more fun with the title.
Mhm.
But like instead of Hulk being part of the Avengers, it's Wasp. And
Mhm.
like the reason that the writer explained was, because Peggy was Captain America, like like the whole women's rights movement and everything like that
Mhm.
just went better because people just accepted
Mhm.
women as heroes and yada yada. So then like Hank Pym in that universe is more apt to let Hope become Wasp a lot earlier. So she's part of the original Avengers lineup. And like there's like a lot of little things like that are in the episode that I think are really
Mhm.
cool. And that's like a really cool, fun what if
Mhm.
to mess around with. And then that's not the what if that they mess
Mhm.
around with. So I don't know.
What if the what if instead was there was no superheroes? It was just like a 30-minute documentary from that universe of first, second, and third wave feminism being different because of Peggy Carter. Um, but no, I think that like that's all interesting, and I think that this is kind of why like I don't want to say this about the whole concept of the show, but like it seems like wait, I think a 30-minute cartoon is actually probably the worst way to present this idea because you can't explain like it's just like I think it's hard to get across. I actually really like the fake town thing, but like
Yeah,
that's the thing I'm a sucker for always. It's why I contend that the first 20 minutes of Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull are really good.
they
Um,
are really good. And
they
you're
are
right.
really good. People,
Yeah.
okay, I'm glad we're on board because like I've heard the take and I agree. It's like a top 10 Spielberg action sequence he's ever done. It's incredible. I love that
Yeah,
beginning
it's
of the
amazing.
movie. The movie eventually gets bad when there's a what's his name? Oh, Shia LaBeouf comes into it, but before that, it's good. Sorry, I'm a bit. Apologies for being a bit manic. It's a little late at night, and also AC is not minding the shop. So anyway,
Listen, I'm always down for some first 20 minutes of Crystal Skull praise.
it's just really good. It's good.
It's
Um,
really good. It's really
Also,
good.
I think I did a rewatch before Dial of Destiny, and people don't want to hear it, but I mean, that's at worst the fourth best one. I mean, it's
Mhm.
Temple of Doom is definitely worse than it. It just is. I'm sorry.
Thank you. No,
It
we
just
have the
is.
same. This is crazy. I promise I'm not
Yeah,
just like blowing smoke at you right now.
yeah,
I also did a rewatch before
yeah,
Dial of Destiny came out, and I had the same thought where I was like,
yeah.
I actually don't think this is the worst one. And
No,
me having the realization of I think Temple of Doom might be the worst Indiana Jones
yeah.
movie, I was like afraid to tell people that. I thought I'd get
It's just like it's
down.
just, and I need to probably rewatch it again, but like I would go back and forth of whether or not getting to the Crystal Skull or Dial of Destiny is better or worse. I think that one of the big things for me is that Indiana Jones was not a character I grew up with really, and so I didn't see Kingdom of the Crystal Skull until like a decade after it came out. So I had no. I remember people hated it, but then like I'm like surely like I just have really a lot of doubts that Steven Spielberg made a bad movie. Like I know the terminal exists, but other than that, I don't think he really has ever done that. And in my opinion, he didn't really.
Yeah,
Anyway,
no, it's fine. It's fine at worst is the thing.
yeah, like I really think if you cut out most of the mutt stuff, I think it's actually like a fully good movie.
Yeah.
But anyway, the next one is what if Kahori reshaped the world? which is a completely original character. Now, I know you probably, you're on the scoops and the trades. I want you to talk a little bit about how this came to be. And like where, because I think it's a big deal that they have basically the first, really feels like the first like fully original superhero.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not really sure how it came to be, but I really like how it turned out. like, I, it's an original superhero, and again, sort of like a fun. This is what I kind of want this show to be. Is like if there
Mm-hmm.
is one like something important happens differently, and that leads to there being like an entirely original superhero that has never existed in any Marvel medium before. And it's a good character with an interesting story and a really interesting world and lore and supporting characters that are good. And yeah, I had high hopes for this episode, but I was also very nervous about it because I was like, there was 8 million ways that you could screw this up. And I was thrilled that it was as good as it was, and that she came
Yeah,
back.
yeah, I think it's a really winning character, and I think that like it is probably the best example of like what if can do because it takes it so far back. Like it's like what because the thing I enjoy about it is that well, the what if is actually pretty clear. It's what if the Tesseract ended up in
Yeah,
what is it? Is it a apologies a Mohawk tribe? I believe they're
believe
speaking
so. Yeah,
Mohawk. Yeah, I'll double check that.
I was gonna say I can also hop on
In
that.
the uh oh no, it's yeah they're Mohawk because the Iroquois
Yeah,
Confederacy and they're
I was
yeah
gonna say
they're speaking
I
Mohawk.
was pretty sure I remembered them saying that,
Yes,
but
I knew they spoke Mohawk as a language, but I wasn't sure if maybe it was a situation where multiple tribes spoke that, so I didn't want to be incorrect. So
yeah,
the idea that it crashes in a near Mohawk tribe, I think is really fascinating because I think it's also like I'm sure that the writer and Devery Jacobs who play Kahori, who was very involved, could speak to it more. But I think that there is something very interesting about what it is saying about how a different culture of people would react to having this level of power as opposed to the way it was hidden away. Like I think that there is, and I don't have answers to those questions, but I think that is a for what if I think is best when it is at posing questions as well as answering questions, and I think that it was a thing I had not considered of like, oh, what if this power was in kind of almost in agrarian hands, and what would that look like, and would some conquistadors get their shit split?
yes. I mean, speaking of conquistadors and all that stuff, this is also probably the first. I think it's the first MCU thing like entirely not in English,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is also really really cool that they fully went down that road
Yes,
and didn't look back.
and I think that I'm someone who I fucking hate when, um, in an English speaking movie when two non English speakers speak English to each other.
Yeah.
Um, like I don't mind it if it's like, for example, like with Napoleon. Like I don't mind that it's not in French because the whole movie is in English. But like
Mm.
when at the beginning of the first Avenger, when Red Skull is like talking to other Nazis and he's speaking in English, I'm like, believe me, everyone watching this movie can read.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, I thought that, and I thought it was really nice. I really like too that like the conquistadors were Spanish because that's just like historically accurate. I was afraid that they were
Mm.
gonna make them speak English just like a salve, but like no, there's no English spoken until the very end of the episode.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. I'm pretty sure the main conquistador villain was an original character too. I think. I
Let me
think.
take a look. Let me take a look. Let's see who this.
I was gonna check it before I talked about it, but I don't remember. If anything,
Uh,
he's like a very
Rodrigo Alfonso Gonzalo. I think they just made up.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think they
that's
did.
not real. I mean, I grew up in Florida, so we actually like, and this is not a joke. We conquistadors were a very important, big part of our, because Florida
Yeah.
is very, so Juan Ponce de Leon, who by the way was not actually looking for the Fountain of Youth. That's like propaganda. Like, no,
Yeah.
when you hear that, like no shit, but the amount of like grown adults were like, he was convinced there was a Fountain of Youth. And like, yes, he convinced an entire country to fund an expedition like with hundreds of guys because of the fucking Fountain of Youth. Really,
And
like really.
we all
uh,
know only Nicolas Cage could do that.
yes,
Um,
exactly. But yeah, I thought that it was just. I just think the action was really cool too.
it was. I will say I'm a sucker for every. This will get me in a movie every single time, even if it's a bad movie. I'll still enjoy this part of it. Is that the classic like a hero stands alone and it inspires a bunch of other people and then they
Yeah.
all come in at the last second
Mm,
like that
yeah.
every single time I get so hyped, tears streaming
Mhm,
down my face, like it's amazing, I
mhm.
love it.
Yeah, that is actually true for me too. I always will. Yeah, it's like such a manipulative thing. It just works so well. And yeah, I mean, this episode actually I think is like I think I think the cool elements with like the lake. I think it's done really cool, and it introduces a new, not really a new property to the Tesseract because we know that it transports people places, but like it is. I don't know. It's an interesting concept that we really don't fully understand, and we don't need to because it's just a half-hour episode, and I assume we'll get more. I would love to see this character in live action. Um,
Yes.
if I can quote, another discussion was on the Discord. I know a lot of people are saying that they want Amber Mid Thunder to play her. Why can't do not just cast the what is it, the Native American actress who plays her already?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know why they would who like had like does live action too. It's not like it'd be one thing if it
Yeah,
was like, yeah, she strictly is a voice actress
yeah.
and like but no, like
Mm.
she does live
Yeah, or
action
if
too.
she was like a longtime voice actress who's like 55 but can do a young person.
Yeah.
But no, she's come on. Yeah, what's my last note? I said that one of the Concave stores got sand beached, which is a very specific reference to a podcast. I don't know why I wrote that in my notes. Um, Colonialism lost, which I'm very curious what the rest of the world looks like. I mean, is it just
I was thinking,
no?
yeah. I
And
was
once
thinking
again,
that earlier. Well, also just like the ramifications of the Tesseract not being elsewhere. Like
yeah,
so much of the MCU as a whole is founded on the Tesseract being where it was.
mhm,
So it's like so much doesn't happen or just happens but completely different from there on
mhm.
out. And that's you know what to like you said earlier, what if works best when it's posing questions as well as answering them. Like if you present me with a what if episode and when it's done, I'm like I would read like a continued comic
Yes.
series just about this timeline. I know it was like they used the concept well.
Yes. All right. So the next one is entitled "What If Hela Found the Ten Rings?" Which, when I saw that title, I'm like, that's just so contrived. Like she has nothing to do with the Ten Rings. Which once again, which is, this episode really should be called "What If Hela Was, banished Earth?" Like I think that because that's but I think that the top line about this one we can talk about the actual happens of the episode is the fact that they got Kate Blanchett is incredible. I mean, obviously they got Rachel Weisz, but like the difference between these two is that Kate Blanchett gives like, probably the best performance in the whole season,
I was
and
just
is
like, he kills it.
incredible. It's like it's like oh like I don't know. As they're wont to do, film Twitter was like pissing and shitting themselves over the fact that a good actress did something fun.
Right.
And I'm like, you don't understand though. She's clearly, if she was not enjoying it, she is the greatest actress ever to live.
Right. She's clearly having a really good time. It makes the episode more enjoyable as a whole.
Mhm.
And also like yeah, I don't know. She's just killing it. She's killing it and I go back to Jude Law and Jan Rog like it almost felt like she was enjoying this more than Ragnarok. Like it felt like this was her like really coming into this character and being like I get her now. I like playing this role.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. It was wild to me how well that went.
yeah. My first note I took that I'll just start off with is that the guy who plays Odin is not doing a good job because he doesn't sound like he's half asleep. Um, I believe it was on one of our bracket first take pods on Patreon where Caleb said that Anthony Hopkins was in the Odin sleep for the filming of the movie. um, anyway, I think that the Wenwu part of it is like interesting because it's not a character I'd immediately pair her with, but I do love that his reaction to meeting her. I think like many rational people, including myself, would be like, "Okay, let me throw all rationality to the wind and do whatever I need to do to get this." Like
Like
she's like clearly a murderer, and he's like, "I understand that, but I will keep you captive. I will not." Like, yeah,
she's like, I am the goddess of death, and he was like, that's rad. Stick around.
yeah. It's like yes, but what's your status though? Like, it's like oh
Oh,
yeah. I mean, we all have to make money. I mean, what's going on?
yeah, I do. It was a fun episode. It was another like you said. I didn't think when I first saw the episode titles, it was one that I think I maybe wrote off as like, well, maybe this one won't be as good as the rest or
Mhm,
whatever. But I thought it was fun. I think it did the
yeah,
concept pretty well, and I had a good
mhm,
time with it.
yeah.
I like seeing more of Wenwu. I mean, again, I know it's not the original actor, but like, that's
No,
not a guy you're gonna get.
but I know.
Um,
Yeah, the fact that Tony Leung did Shang-Chi and Legend of the Ten Rings to begin with is a small miracle. So,
yeah. I thought the action was pretty solid.
mhm,
It was cool. It was cool just seeing more of that world because I really
Yeah.
did like the
Mhm.
Shang-Chi movie, and I really liked a
Mhm.
lot of what it added to the MCU. And because of shared universe
Mhm.
storytelling, we just haven't seen it again
Yeah.
in a minute. So it was
Mhm.
cool to get more of that as opposed to another Bucky story or um,
Yeah.
more Guardian stuff. Like there's a
Now, I
lot of
will say I would not be opposed to a Bucky's story. Like, Natasha opens up a Bucky's franchise. Like, I'd be fine with that. But I just
yeah,
don't. But no, a thought I had is that I always like a bad person agrees to like do a thing for the wrong reasons, but then slowly becomes good because of it. And
yeah,
like I like that this episode didn't. There's something that annoys me more than like when a movie or TV show does a bad character learns to be good, but then they pull the rug at the last second. It's like, no, what the fuck did I just? Why did I?
yeah.
Why?
Why
There's
did I go
I
on this
kind of get
journey?
annoyed when I watch a movie where the reveal is that a character was just lying the whole time.
Yeah.
Saltburn. But uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, I could get into Saltburn, but that's not what we're here for.
No, but I think that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that like I'm glad that we ended this episode with a good Hela. And if I
Yeah,
complaint I actually would have, and this is probably just because I love Kate Blanchett so much, is that like I almost wish the last episode was a three-hander. Like I feel like that character is like fun enough where if she was the three of them, I would enjoy it more. But that's a personal thing.
yeah. Well, and that's getting into more thoughts I had on the last episode. Actually, I don't know if we're quite there yet,
No, we
but
have one more before that. But any other thoughts on Hela and Wenwu?
I no, not really. I think we summed it up pretty well.
I did have the note. Jesus, Big Driss will really show up for anything. Um, he really will. Like Idris
Wait,
Elba, I love him, but he'll
I
show up for
will
anything.
say, where in the timeline does that episode
Great
take
question.
place?
I forget how immortal Wenwu is. I think he's pretty like he's been alive for a long time, right?
He's been around for a minute, and because what I was trying to figure out was like he's clearly into Hela in this, which, as we've established, is completely understandable. And Hela goes. I was trying to figure out his wife's situation. I
Oh
guess
no, no,
is
no,
where
they're
I
not.
was.
No, yeah, no. Lee is human age, so she's old enough to be Sean and
Right.
Xiaoling's
Okay.
mother.
So it's like
So
way
this is because also keep in mind Hela's still alive, so this has got to be before Thor, and this is like in
right.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah. I was gonna
BC. Like
say
this is
it's
forever.
way back. It's
Yeah,
way back.
yeah.
Also, like, what if Hela and Wenwu did get together and then he never met his wife, and then
Yeah.
his kids are half Wenwu and half Hela, and then that's
I
like a
mean,
whole thing,
that's a movie I would watch. But
right?
also, we also forgot we got Morris back. Shouts to Morris. Um,
Yes,
one of my
Morris.
close personal friend of mine.
Great,
Um,
great bit with the butt face. I thought
yep,
that was made me
yep.
giggle.
I mean, whenever you can get two-time Academy Award winner Kate Blanchett to make butt jokes, it's just you always appreciate it. And the thing is, like, that's not people. I think a lot of people are like, oh, that's out of character for no. Kate Blanchett, she's
I think she likes
a
to have
very
a good time. I think
oh,
she's here.
absolutely. The thing to think about is I think that there's a cap on how serious any Australian can be. Like I just don't, if she was like British, it's like, yeah, she went to RADA, she's but no. Anyway, next one, second to last one. What if the Avengers assembled in 1602?
Right.
This is set in Britain to avoid some problems that would happen if this was set in America. There's some social political things I don't want to discuss. But
Yeah.
this one, I think, might be the most egregious. Like, what the fuck is the what if here? Like, what changed?
Yes.
What?
They even state later on that they're like, it's not even like, it's just. Don't they explain something along the lines of, there was a thing that caused the heroes of the modern time to get like put in
Yeah,
a 602 setting?
yeah. But like,
Is
that's
that what
yada
it is?
yada. But like, that should be what the episode's about.
Right. It is, and it also doesn't match the title because the
Oh,
episode is not about the Avengers forming in 1602. It implies that they already formed and were a thing, and then they just got sent back in
but
time.
it seems like they're not aware of that. They don't know that because
Yeah.
Tony's completely unaware of modern technology. So
Yeah,
like,
and Loki wouldn't be doing like court jester things.
yeah, and like, why is Thor the king? I mean, I guess
His whole
just
like arc, his whole more like arc of morality and humbleness is feels like it's out the window.
it almost feels like they wanted to tell like a Knights type story, and then they just threw different cast members at what they thought was the closest analog to MCU characters.
We
Um,
also get the return of Hulk Hogan, and for no reason, for no real reason. And then I'm like, okay,
insert.
so is this the timeline from Happy Hogan Saves Christmas, but they're in 1602 now?
I'm not gonna do it because I don't feel like spending the time to do it. But just imagine that video of the pastor that goes, why?" Yeah,
Uh,
like this just has fun stuff in it. But this, I think this for me, maybe just like need to make sense of things. It just was dead on arrival because it just makes no fucking sense. Like, I'm sorry.
yeah, I mean, it's another example of I did enjoy watching it. Like
Yeah,
I did
the
not have
stuff that
fun.
happens in it is fun.
Yeah, but yeah, it leads to more questions than answers in a way that's not the good way we were talking about before.
Now, the thing I enjoy the most about this episode is I always love it when someone can hear the narrator. That's always fun. And so I think that the interplay between Captain Carter and the Watcher is good. They have good chemistry. Um, Once again, also, they got Jeffrey Wright to come back, a man who is probably, possibly, maybe not now. It's probably going to get his first Oscar nomination this year. So, shouts to him.
Yeah, I mean, how many contractually speaking, I wonder how many things Jeffrey Wright is locked into with Marvel.
That's a good question because the thing is, he can knock out What If in like 3 days. So, it's not, I don't
Yeah,
think it's that big of a deal.
I don't
So,
think
but
he
like,
minds doing it.
no, not. I mean, he's a guy who really will do anything. I mean,
Yeah,
he shows up. His uncredited cameo in Game Night is what I consider the best acting of bad acting I've ever seen in anything. Um, so I'm curious if he's. I would actually be pretty shocked if there is not language in there that says if they do a live action thing, he has to do it or something like that.
I assumed that there was because they kind of model
Yeah,
Uatu after him. So I'm like,
yeah,
they're not doing that on accident.
yeah. Yeah, no, imagine they're like, we're gonna make Uatu the Watcher a bald black man. Oh, it just so happens we want to cast Jeffrey Wright. Like,
There just so happens to be an actor with an incredible voice.
now what's someone on Twitter, and I apologize I didn't write this down, point it out. And this is just so egregious. And I can't believe it thinking about hindsight. How is Hawkeye not Robin Hood?
That is such a good. That is so frustrating. I will never not think of that.
He
Hawkeye's also just like not. This whole season was like, screw Hawkeye. We're not
he
using
did get
Hawkeye.
he did get run over by a snowplow, but I think that actually might be part of it. I wouldn't be surprised because he has like the one line in the Happy Hogan Saves Christmas, but still,
Yeah, I guess production timeline. In my head, I feel like they. Well, I guess they would have recorded dialogue after. That's a good point. But anyway, yeah. Even if you get a backup actor,
no, no,
it's
that's they probably could still do stuff. It's just like, yeah, it's weird that he's not in it. And once again, he shoots arrows. That's his thing.
he's right there. It's right there. They even kind of like Steve Rogers kind of has a Robin Hood thing going on.
No, he is. Like, he clearly is Robin Hood. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
So it's like there is my point is there is a Robin Hood character, and it's not the guy who shoots bows and arrows.
Even if I'm, you know what? I even understand narratively why they would be like it. We should have Steve Rogers be the Robin Hood character
Yeah.
because, like, in
Mhm.
terms of characterization, I get it. That makes
Yes.
sense. Very Steve Rogers thing to do. But to not even have him as like a non-speaking guy in the background who like shoots the air, even like
Yeah.
it would almost be funny if they make Steve Rogers Robin Hood,
Mhm.
but then like visually one of his like
Yeah.
Hawkeye looks exactly like Robin Hood, but then isn't. Like that's even
Mhm.
better than wow.
Yeah.
I never
It's
unseeing
and
this.
so this all ends with like that. There's someone who's out of time, and the whole bit with Steve like being in the wrong, this, that, or the other, really didn't work for me because it's unclear what the situation because is. I was under the impression that everyone else is in the wrong time, but I guess they're not. And like, so what? Like, I think that I'm not someone who thinks that there always need to be like specific rules, but I think if you're going to, like I said, make this show not just the imagined story time show, but this is things that is happening in the different universes show. The way that different universes work and what happens if you screw up this or the other, that is actually vitally important to the show. You can't that
Yeah,
has to be concrete.
yeah. Especially when you're gonna take like a bunch of episodes from the season, and even though they are sort of anthological, also kind of string them together to like have
Yeah.
certain characters meet and interact and have the watcher comment and narrate and yada yada. It makes it more confusing. I also just had a super random thought.
Yeah.
In terms of the Jeffrey Wright contract thing, is if he signed up for say like 3 seasons of television, because we know there's a third season of
Yeah.
What If happening.
Hmm.
Would he have had to have signed up for 4? Because does I Am Groot season 2 count?
That's a really good question. I really would love to see a Marvel contract, because there clearly are so many like different clauses, and you know they're required to do one thing, and like obviously the early ones are less stringent, and now it's basically like you're signing away your life rights, says film Twitter. I mean, you kind of are, but also like um, I'm not gonna cry for someone who gets to be a big movie star.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'd be interested too to see that. But yeah, then we get to the last episode, which also this is where I noted that the Union Jack was invented after this episode takes place. But that's I looked it up to be sure, and so like, what the fuck is she wearing? People are like, "What? That's a good flag idea." But no. So, well, a thing I didn't mention is that in previous episodes, Doctor Supreme Strange has been coming through and gathering people up. You see him get Kahori, and we see him get and so he's here with Captain Carter, and she's drinking some scotch, which I noted she can't metabolize alcohol, so she metabolizes alcohol too fast, but she still likes drinking scotch. She's a mad woman, and I respect it. um
That's another great point.
I'm sorry,
Um,
I wasn't, maybe I wasn't actually paying attention to these stories because I was trying to, the problem with me taking notes is at a certain point I just mostly was coming up with jokes to do later.
Honestly, I often do the same thing, and I didn't know I was doing this podcast until shortly before I did it, but
Correct.
I probably would have done something very similar.
Yeah, I didn't make it clear that. Oh, the notes are things I did right before. I'm not this quick off the top of my head, but so we go to another universe that she's basically uh Strange asks Peggy to go to a universe and help him capture like because he's saying he captures like universe enders or whatever. Like he has like a museum of all the bad universe enders or whatever. So she goes to a universe where we see a Mount Rushmore that has like Red Skull, this and the other. And this was a joke I pre-wrote. I said Mount Rushmore somehow got more racist. Um, and so, but this also raises a lot of interesting questions about how did the world that Kahori's in end up with worse Mount Rushmore, and that's not really answered at all.
No, it's not. I actually kind of have beef with the last episode of
I
this.
oh I do too. And talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, on top of, I think it does continue a lot of the problems of, uh, you know, it's the cool things aren't explored, yada
Mhm.
yada. But I just felt like for as much crap as the first season got, there was a pretty clear like
Mhm.
this is how the episodes are connected and
Mhm.
it leads to Guardians of the Multiverse, and that's really cool and fun because you take like the best characters from all the episodes and they make a
Yes.
team,
Mhm.
and like it or not, one of the most fun things about a shared universe is, or
Mhm.
multiverse or whatever, is that you get to see the characters meet and interact and team
Yes.
up. And I kind of just assumed like they were heading towards a similar concept with this,
Uh
and
huh.
then they took just 2 of the characters,
Uh huh.
and then they just pulled the. I mean, I saw this on Twitter, but they basically pulled the secret invasion thing where they're like, and then what if they just have everyone's powers, and then they like did that, and then Strange Supreme or whatever wasn't really in the season, and then
He
suddenly
wasn't.
he's like the big bad of the
Mhm.
season apparently, and then it goes back to what you were saying earlier, where he kind of had an arc in the first season where
Yeah.
he realizes the errors of his ways and he gets
Mhm.
better, and then in this they're like, and then he immediately doesn't remember anything he learned and is just
Yeah.
going right back to it, and I don't know. I felt like it wasn't a really satisfying ending to the season. It felt
Yeah.
all over the place.
And like the Watcher thought that the threat in season one was bad enough to intervene,
Right.
and I just don't quite understand what the difference between that in season two is. That this was something that Peggy just kind of just stumbled on herself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing. She also like one of the problems with it is that like she really just stumbles on it basically by accident. Like the fact that she happens to have a conversation with Kahori is the only reason why she knows about. And I think that the question I kept wondering and I kept expecting an answer for, maybe I genuinely might have missed it because I'm shocked if the fact they didn't. expound on this. What is the Forge? Why does him feeding all of these things to a why? What? Why?
Yeah, I almost got excited briefly that they were gonna try to like tie an Eternals thing in, and the Forge was gonna be some like cosmic, like elemental, like eternal celestial situation or something. And I was like, oh, that could be like a cool like way to do that. And then it just, I don't know, it just wasn't. I
Yeah, yeah. Because like, if the idea is that characters like heroes and villains that shape their multiverse, their universe a lot, have some sort of cosmic energy that they get because of that. That's woo woo nonsense, but we're in a superhero show, so yes, I buy that. And that if you get a certain amount of cosmic energy, you can like force into existence a universe that has previously gone away. Yes, fine, but like that, everything I just said are things that came from my brain and were not in the show.
right. And also, like you said before, it would have been, you have some really cool concepts in there. Like if good Hela or Hela the White or whatever we want to call her, like if she showed up instead of just like them bouncing up and down, which is like not a terrible bit, but I'm also like
No.
I wasn't really looking for a bit there, and then they just all start throwing their weapons, and I'm like, it would be cool though if like more of you were involved in what's happening.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, I don't know. It felt very forced. Whereas the first one, I was like, whether you like the first season or not, at least it made sense how it
Yeah.
wrapped up.
Yeah. It just is like, yeah, you take the best characters from the previous episodes and you put them together. Like, it makes, I completely understand that. And yeah, it just felt like really arbitrary. And the team up, like the bit with where she gets all the powers, really was just like,
Also,
it's
when
just so bad. It's always bad. It's never good when that happens. It's
I'm
always bad.
I'm wondering when Kahori learned English too, like how that happened, like where that came about.
I mean, she's been around for a long time. I'm sure she learned English at some
Yeah,
point. I mean,
I guess that's fair. But I think that's also like unclear. Like how long has she been around?
I mean, I given that the Mount Rushmore has Hydra, I'm assuming it's at least after the 1940s.
Yeah, I guess that's a fair point. Um, gosh, what was my other thought? I had another thought, and it's escaping me now, and it was another negative one, sort of.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was like I do think it's kind of funny that again in the first season, it becomes clear why the Watcher chooses to show us, the alternate universes that he
Yes.
does, and it's because those are the ones he's picking
Hmm.
uh heroes from. And in this one, from the Watcher himself, so many of the episodes end up being like, I'm showing you this universe because this specific version of Peggy is my fave.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of funny.
Yeah. It's definitely, it's just, there's a fixation there that I just don't think works.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that there's just a lot of issues with the actual fight. I mean, once the Infinity Stones are involved, you completely. I think power scaling is a thing that people get too up in arms about, but in this, it's egregious enough where I care, and that's it's bad. Um, a note I had is that one of the things that Strange does to try to win is that he puts in Peggy's mind her and Steve being together, and Kahori is like, "No, don't believe it. It's not real." How the fuck did she see what was in her head? She's
She's
not in that. She's not in that memory.
that's also a great point. See, these are I didn't. It seems like you've picked up on that specific thing in every single episode, and I didn't. I don't know what it. Maybe it's because I binged it. I kind of blame. See, this is the problem. This is the problem with the binging model. Is I did rewatch some of the episodes, but because I ended up in a scenario where I could binge it, I did binge it, and then there's like little details that I'm forgetting from the season because I didn't get enough time with every episode, and otherwise I feel like I would have picked
I'll be
up on
honest.
stuff.
That specific thing is the thing I'm very cognizant of. Where there's a name, there's a TV show name for, I forget what it is, but like when we see when a character starts telling a story and we see a flashback, and then someone else comments on a visual detail that is not in the voiceover, it's like that character didn't see what we saw. They didn't see a flashback. They just heard someone speaking.
Yeah, one of my favorite like parody. Leave it to me to reference "It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia." But if anyone remembers the Christmas episode, there's a great bit where like Frank is having he's having like a vision basically, and it's clear once he stops having the vision that everything we saw he like was half explaining to
Mhm.
people. And then there's like a small detail that Charlie references, and then everyone else in the gang is like, wait, we didn't see, like, what are you talking about? And I was like, oh, I might have been visualizing things differently. And I've always loved that, and that's exactly what I think of in situations like this.
Exactly. Now, a positive I will say about this episode, and it's one of the few positives, is Jesus Christ, Benedict Cumberbatch is good at monster voices. Wow.
He
He sh-
is Mr. Dragon Man over there.
I mean, if anyone hasn't seen his mocap of Smaug, it's truly,
Mhm.
it's just incredible acting. And that really is like, we talk about, how Australians are. British people, who, like, are classically trained, would be like, yes, I've done theater exercises where I pretend to be a dragon since I was 12. um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I,
it's,
I, I I would like to see Cumberbatch in the booth on this one too. See if he goes just as hard. Why not?
yeah. And so yeah, the episode end, it's I don't even remember how it ends specifically. I didn't write it down. Um, I joked that
Honestly, I'm not either.
this has got to be a contractual makeup for Agent Carter getting canceled.
Probably.
Probably. And I'm happy
That's
that I love Haley Atwell. I mean, people know I've been, a fan. I mean, not enough of a fan. I didn't actually watch Agent Carter, um, but yeah, it's just strange. It's strange that she's just the fixation of the show, and like it's not like a horrible thing because she's not a bad character, but it's noticeable, and that's a problem that it's noticeable.
It's noticeable. I'm gonna sound like a broken record myself, but I'll keep saying it. It's noticeable in the fact that you have a show that could be doing a million different
Mhm.
interesting things, but is just very fixated on repeating like the same couple storylines, which
Yeah.
I think is the show's biggest problem. Because I do, and I recognize and acknowledge that I started this podcast by calling myself a what if defender, and
Hmm.
then proceeded to diss like most of the episodes.
Yeah.
And that's because like I fully recognize what is wrong with the show.
Yeah.
I think that they it doesn't bother me quite as much as some people, whereas I can still
Yeah.
watch it and enjoy it and whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just that I think is its main problem. I think that it just is. I really hope that season 3 is, and I'm not confident that it will, but if it's gonna fix and become more interesting, I just think it needs to become less reliant on like, oh, people like Peggy, so like she's gonna be in every episode,
Hmm.
and be willing to expand and do more things. Because so much of this season was like, remember how great 2014 was, and
Yeah.
and I just wish it was they weren't so reliant on that.
Yeah.
I just
I think that I remember what we discussed when the first season came out, and I don't know if there was a lot of consternation, but I remember there was some pushback from. I'm just going to say, statement, and I know you're a much bigger fan of animation than me, but I know you're a reasonable person, so you'll agree that. And this was a huge deal when people were arguing about like Ahsoka and Rebels and this, that, and the other. Animated shows will always have a much lower ceiling of how many people are going to watch them than non-animated shows in this space. Generally, it just
yeah
is a fact. Less people are going to watch What If, no matter what, than the average MCU live action show.
yeah
And so, I think one of the problems I felt with the first season, and I think it's still present in this season, is that rather than being like, okay, this show is going to be seen by less people, it's mostly going to be seen by the fans who really care. Let's do interesting stuff that might be alienating to my dad, but is not alienating to people who are going to watch What If. And instead, it feels like they're like, oh my god, people don't like watching animated shows. Let's make it super by the numbers so it doesn't turn anyone off.
yeah, like they're making episodes that they feel like are going to pull in the general audience,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to just accepting what it is and going ham, which
Yeah,
yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I do love animation a lot, and I think that more people should watch animation, but again, I also am a person who lives in this world and has
yeah,
spoken to others, and I know that people just aren't going to tune in the way they would be for like WandaVision, and that's
yeah.
fine.
I think, like I said, I always reference the fact that my dad has watched basically all of the MCU stuff, and it's like if I told my dad that he had to watch a cartoon, he would like not in a rude way, but just be like, no, I'm not, no. And that's just the way it is. And also, I think that that's not good. But also, like, if that is the case, that should be freeing as opposed to like. I really feel like one of the problems is that Marvel just does not know how to make something that's not for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, shout out to my dad. My dad did watch it. In fact, that's why I've seen some of the episodes twice. Because when I was home for the holidays, he was very excited to watch it. But that is just because he does like it, but I'm sure a factor is that I am a massive nerd
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he likes that, and so he wants
I
to
mean, yeah.
watch this
Most
thing.
of the times, my dad has watched most of the TV shows with me when I've been home because it's a way to spend time together. Um, but excuse me. I think that yeah, I think that there's just a level of it just is different, and it's a smaller scale thing. I just wish that they had more fun with it. And I'll watch season 3 because obviously I do the podcast, but also because it's 30 minutes. It's gonna be fun. And I really hope that they take some of the criticism to heart. I don't know if they will, but I don't know.
I feel like they've already written like that. I think
Yeah,
that's
that's
part
the
of the problem.
problem.
Like I feel like they'd pretty much already written season two by the time season one came out.
Yeah,
So all criticism of season one just wasn't factored in, and I feel like it's kind of the same. I get the vibe that they've kind of just already written season three, and it is going to be what it is. I mean, I'll still watch it. I'm tune in,
yeah,
but
yeah. Once again, they just got to do Italian Black Panther. Anyway, so it was a good time. I liked, like I said, it ended up being a fun thing for me to sneak off and watch on my laptop, um, during Christmas season, and we want to know what you think about it. What episode was your favorite? My favorite was probably it was either Tony Stark on Sakaar or Helen Wenwu, probably. What about you?
um, mm, probably either Hella and Wenwu. Well, it might have been probably that or Kahori. It's I would say
Yeah.
are my those are my
Yeah, there
two.
are some. I think there are like four absolutely i- straight up good episodes, and then mixed for the rest of them. But yeah, please let us know what you think via Twitter, or if you want to have like a full on discussion, because we're just frankly more active with discussions on Discord. Because the thing about Twitter is like you, what happens a lot on Twitter is that people will follow our account and like respond to some of our tweets, and the way that they respond, and this doesn't apply to whoever's listening because you're listening, is like that they don't listen to the show, and like they respond as if like we're a other type of comic book movie account, and like we'll like make jokes about like forcing diversity or this that the other. I'm like, you just never listen to the show. Like this is for the other, like I you just followed us because we had Marvel in our name, but like but no. So if you want to have a long discussion, please join the Discord. Just like I said, $3 to get in, and we have a lot of fun stuff. We were some good fun jokes about the Cat Williams interview were happening that I laughed at but did not participate in. Yeah, please join up if you want to get that sort of stuff. But I really want to thank Hunter Radesi for last minute coming in. AC was sick, and so we can't speak. And I don't know if I mentioned at the top that I had another guest lined up that texted me at 11 this morning that he's sick too. And so, it's always great when you have friends who can, after a long day of work, chop it up about some Marvel content. So, Hunter, thank you very much. Where can people find you?
You can find me H Radesi. That's Hradesi. I famously misspelled that on here once, so I'll never do it again. But H Radesi 14 on pretty much everything. Despite its current slow
Mm-hmm.
implosion, I am on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on Instagram. I'm on Threads. I mean, you name it. If you look
Mm-hmm.
it up, it's the same. It's the same on everything.
How
And
is Threads doing now? Because I'm not. That's the one I refuse to do because it's algorithmic.
I mean, I don't use it a lot,
Okay.
to be honest. I
Yeah.
am on it, and I've used it once or twice. It's weird because I'm still on Twitter for the most part, just
Yeah.
as like a habit, I think.
Yeah.
And then I'll every once in a while pop on Threads, and it kind of seems like it's popping. Like I'll go on there, and all these people that I'm like, oh, I forgot, like I haven't seen a tweet from you in
Yeah.
forever. It pops up on Threads.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, are people actually using this? I didn't know.
I say most of the people I know who've left Twitter have gone to Blue Sky. If I had to go to one, I'd go there. But the problem is, I've said this on here before, so apologies for repeating myself. They're just not stupid people on Blue Sky. Like the joke I made is that the famous tweet of a stack a month is actually 26K a year. That's not going to be on Blue Sky, right? And I don't think you can't have Twitter without stupid people.
Yeah,
Honestly,
I'm actually not. I'm not on Blue Sky. That's one that
yeah.
I'm not on, and it's for a similar like. I think I peeked at it and was like, "This isn't fun," and I just didn't. I just
Yeah,
didn't
it's
do
a
it.
lot of scolding about how to use the app. At least it was last time I checked, which was like a month ago. And so if it's changed, like I would love nothing more than to not be on Twitter. But like I don't want to have to do videos. Like I tried to do TikTok stuff, but then like what I realized is the only stuff I want to do is just like be like, isn't it weird that Exhibit was in NFL Street too? And like that's not doing numbers. I actually did
I
do numbers where I did
so
where I did
excited that
a
you just
I
or
actually put that up. That was an actual TikTok I did. I actually did like 10K views on a there was a prompt of what's something that was done by the same person that no one knows, and I did one about how the director of the movie Tar also co-invented Big League Chew. That did numbers, but
I
yeah.
remember that one actually.
So mostly just mostly Twitter still at the J Christie. Please follow the show at MC University Pod. Like I said, we'll be on Twitter, for the foreseeable future. Just fingers crossed that the bank seizes it and puts someone competent in charge. Um, I feel like that's what we're all secretly waiting for. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I that's why I haven't left because I'm like deep down I do. There's a part of me that's like, but maybe it gets better.
but the
It
thing
won't,
about it
but
is, the value in Twitter is that it is the one that like quote unquote important people use. It's not regular people don't use Twitter. Really, just degenerates and like somewhat important people use it. And so like
yeah,
it is still valuable in that. And I feel like if it was under a competent leadership again, people would use it again. I feel like it's really just a Musk issue. But anyway,
yeah.
that's it for another day. Yeah, keep listening, rate, subscribe, give it 5 star, 5 star, 5 star. Find us on YouTube. This is on YouTube if you're watching. And subscribe to us there. At 200, we're going to do another giveaway. AC handled that. And we gave away something at 100. We'll get something at 200, probably 300, and then 400. By that point, we're popping. We did wait till 500. No. But yeah, for Hunter DC, for AC, let's hope he gets his voice back. We'll be back for Echo next week, I think, or maybe early the week after because that's all at once. We'll work it out, but we'll see you for Echo and talk to you next time.